How to beat your worst competition. Who is your biggest competition right now? Is it another business? Another creator? Someone in your market? What if I told you your biggest competition is not out there, but inside of you? If you're building something and want to understand what actually drives your results, subscribe. I see this all the time. Entrepreneurs looking at what others are doing, how others are winning, and how to beat the competition. And it makes sense. But let's shift this, because the real question is, what if your biggest competition is not external, but internal? Let me share my story real quick, because when I built my cleaning company, I didn't spend any time studying competition or competitors. No, I did something else. So the contrast is this, that I was back in 2008 in a $1.5 million debt. And I was frustrated, I was desperate, I was ready to run away from everything because I couldn't really figure out what to do. I shared this before. I had this lightning moment where everything inside of me was just like it sparked. And I was yelling in my bed, I'm going to solve this. And different things happened, different synchronicities showed up, and I followed them, I took actions on them. Something else happened during those years, and that was I changed my focus. I stopped looking out there, and I started looking in here. Because what I realized was that my biggest competition was my internal competition. My biggest competition was my thoughts, my stories, and my patterns. It was what I told myself. And let me give you some examples, because I can tell you this was not only me. When I built my cleaning business and it grew, I started doing speakings, seminars, coaching entrepreneurs, business owners, creators. And so I know from having thousands of people through my room that I'm not the only one with what I'm sharing with you here. But let me give you some examples. If I told myself, which I did, this is hard, I'm not sure I can do it, this is a struggle, I can't find the solution, guess what happened? Well, it became hard, and I couldn't do it, and it became a struggle, right? So it's quite simple, because some people don't believe in the woo-woo and the magic of the universe, but maybe you do believe that you have a mind and you have emotions and you create your own reality. And I know this is taking responsibility, but at least think about it this way. If we break it down, your words create your internal state. And one of the simplest and maybe also oldest manifestation principles or formulas that we can find is that thought leads to feeling or emotions, leads to action, and that leads to a result. So think about this. If the thought is, this is hard, or it's going to be hard, or I believe it's hard, or, oh, that's hard. If that's the thought, the feeling, the emotions might be with some resistance. That makes sense, right? And if you then take the next step, the action, if you think it's going to be hard, if you feel resistance in your body, would you agree that probably your action will be with some kind of hesitation? Which means that the result will be slow or no progress at all. That was just one of the examples, and I've seen this again and again. It's about catching those words. It's about catching the stories going on. But let's make this 180, turn it around, 180 degrees, and see if you can follow me on this one, because let's go into some contrast energy here. What if you changed it's hard to, for instance, or this is a challenge I can handle, or this is how I get better? Would you kind of agree that, well, it would change everything? Because if your thought, the one was it's hard, the emotion became not that powerful, and the action even less powerful, and results, and that becomes a loop, the same thing going on. Now let's change it, and instead of saying it's hard, we'll say, okay, I'm growing now. Or this is a challenge, like a positive challenge. I know that when I crack this, or when I go through this, I will grow and I will get better results. So that's the thought now. And would you agree that from that thought, your emotions will be more powerful than from this is hard? So you will feel more inspiration maybe, or more motivation maybe, or more like just power. And then from there, your actions compared to it's hard and resistance and hesitation, compare this to over here when you say this is growth. I am growing now. I can handle this. I'm just going to go through it. More power inside, and the actions probably more powerful too, right? And the results, which means everything changes, and that becomes a new loop. I'm not at all saying this is easy, but it's a growing mechanism. And that's exactly what I shared about when I went into my cleaning company and I built that. That was the internal game of not looking at the competition outside, but becoming very aware what's going on in my inside, right? I remember I went to a meeting, the biggest potential customer. It was one of the biggest cinemas in the capital here in my country. And I went to this meeting. We had never done anything like that. We had never had such a big customer before. And I went in there. I was pumped and I was like, I'm going to get this. And this guy, the manager of the cinema, he asked me, have you ever done anything like this before? And I saw in my mind, I began, wow, I haven't done anything. And I became small. I had to stop that voice right away. And I was aware about this, so I shifted that voice, I shifted that story, I shifted that thought. So instead of saying, no, we have not, and feeling less powerful and, oh, but I'm not sure I understand what you mean, and maybe this will not happen, and maybe we cannot do it. You know, I could have gone that way. But instead, in that moment, I decided to shift this. So in that meeting, I told him, you know what? We have never done anything like that. But I do believe, because I've been working in 20 years with growing some really pretty cool businesses. And at 1 year, we opened 12 coffee shops, actually in just a month. So I planned that and we executed on it and we made it happen. So when I set myself to do something, I'm going to do it. And I want to be the cleaning company that helps you turn this cleaning and this cinema around. See, I was not lying or anything. I believed that it would be a challenge, and I told him I believed in myself because I've done it before. And I told him, but I told him with power. I was convinced myself and I convinced him. So he actually signed our biggest contract, right? So, and that's what I mean. The power in those stories, this is just an example, in the emotions, in your system, and also in the actions, and that creates a result. I could have gone out of that meeting beating myself up because I thought I was not ready, or that I couldn't do it, or I couldn't get the contract, or he got me on that question, and you know how it is. Maybe I could even beat myself up after that. But instead, in that moment, because I trained my brain to that, my mindset to that, I shifted it and became even more powerful from that question, and we signed the deal. So all of this is exactly why that I've created a 7-day challenge inside our community. This challenge is not a hustle and grinding and things like this. It's actually the opposite. It's a thing where you every day look internally, look at your thoughts, look at your emotions, look at your patterns, your reactions, because again, that's where your real competition is. And if you want to check out this 7-day, the link is below, and it's still for free. So just find the link below. Now, instead of asking, how do I beat my competition or competitors? Maybe from this video, you can shift it around and ask yourself power questions instead. Maybe you can ask yourself this question: what is the story I'm running right now? And maybe you can go even further than that and just write it down. What is the story that I'm running right now that is holding me back? Because that's a limiting story, a limiting belief. And like I said, if you just say it's a challenge, well, if it's negative what you're saying, you're bringing yourself down. If you say it's a challenge and you love challenges, well, then it might be that it's a good thing. But if you just shift the words a little bit, and this is a play you can do on and on and on and again and again and again, finding out what story am I telling myself, and then shifting that story. And when you shift that story, become aware what's going on inside and feel, because you'll feel it right away, and then don't forget the action. It doesn't matter if you don't take action, right? So what is the story I'm running right now? And even further or deeper, what is the story I'm running right now that is holding me back? And start listening to yourself. This is the awareness. This is the first key of everything. Listening to yourself. What do you say internally? What is the story that is talking inside of you? And maybe even deeper, what is the story that you are repeating all the time? Because that's your real competition, right? Again, let me just take the example with this cinema. I could have gone and done a lot of research. What are other companies doing and how much are they charging and all of these things? Well, maybe I'd had a little bit more confidence when I went into that meeting. But anyway, if he asked me that question and I looked at all the competitors and I know what they were doing and I could beat them and all of that, but I hadn't shifted my own voice and mindset, I would have lost it. I didn't know about all the other ones, but I was so powerful in my conviction about I'm getting that contract, and he felt that. He believed in me from that power. So, and again, I've seen this again and again and again on my own journey, building companies, coaching, speaking, seminars, coaching in total of thousands of people. This is a game changer. So for me, and I'm going to say this, when I say this, it's not like beating yourself up with a big stick, but we're actually doing that all the time, right? what I wanted to say is you don't beat the market, you beat yourself. But not beating like with a big stick. When we do it with a big stick, it's kind of like when we say the things, when you have a story going on inside that holds you down or keeps you down, then you're actually beating yourself with a big stick, right? That's punishment because you are keeping yourself in that lower power or non-power that doesn't serve you. And if you say, yeah, well, Michael, he's saying something, but I don't really believe him, that's just that story trying to hold you down. So again, you don't beat the market, you beat yourself. And you beat yourself by shifting that internal language. Because you're beating yourself very hard right now, like I did for so many years. If you keep that story running around inside, that you're not good enough, that you can't do it, that it's a challenge, that it's tough, that you don't have what it takes, you're too old. I said that to myself some years ago. I said, it's done, I can't do it anymore, I'm too old. And I kind of like shifted that around, and I'm saying to myself, well, too old? I've seen people at 80 running around, down in the harbor here, running around with their business and doing stuff. I'm 54 soon. I'm not too old. What if I really went all in and surfed and did the things in the next 4, 5, 6, 10, whatever, 20 years? How would that be for me? Just growing every day. See? The other one is beating myself. I'm too old. I'm too old. I'm not good enough. That's the beating, right? So I'm curious. I went a little bit more energetic today here, but what is a story that you keep telling yourself that might be holding you back? And I invite you, you can put it in the comments if you watch this on YouTube. Because when we begin sharing these things, when you begin becoming aware, but also putting it in writing, it's not only inside of yourself anymore. And this is first step in the shift. See? Write it down. Okay, this is the thought that keeps running in myself. This is what's holding me down. And then you write it. Now you are beginning to transform those energies that held you back. And if you're in the community and watching this, I invite you even more to write whatever shows up for you that's keeping you back. Because this is where we can begin to break these chains that is holding you down so much. So I look forward to some comments on this one. I hope you like this video. It's so powerful. It's such a powerful thing. And this is the thing going on inside ourselves. So I look forward to see your comments, and I'll see you in the next one.